Testing. Testing. All right, Java, I'm setting up textbook to page 197 and the shared code 5.16, exercise 5.16. Now, I have shared the solution file with you. You can create your own project and run the program to test the logic of this program, but the shared code is at D2L. One interesting application of computers is to display graphs and bar charts. Write an application that reads 5 numbers between 1 and 30. For each number that's read, your program should display the same number of adjacent asterisks. For example, if your program reads the number 7, it should display 7 asterisks on that line, on that row. Display the bars of asterisks after you've read all 5 numbers. All right, so we have some set criteria. We are going to allow input from the keyboard. We're going to read 5 different numbers between 1 and 30. So we want to restrict that range for our user. And for each number that's read, we want to display the number of asterisks on one line, then move to the next line. So for example, if the user inputs 7, then we should display in our graph 7 asterisks. If the user displays 3, we should display on the next line 3 asterisks, and so on. So let's open NetBeans, and I have my project. I call it example 5-16, and I added a new file, graphs.java, and typed the text of the new file. This program prints 5 histograms with lengths determined by the user. We're going to input java.util.scanner because we're asking for variable input from the keyboard. Our class name is graphs, so our file name is graphs, uppercase G. This is an application, so the public static void main exists in this file. This will be the file called when we execute, and it is the only file for this program. There's the begin main and documented end main, and begin class and end class documented. So in the main, we are going to assign the variable input from the keyboard, and we're going to allow for a new scanner system.in. System.out print, enter a number, and our first number variable is an integer. Number 1 is a variable name, and number 1 is assigned the first integer that the user types. System.out print your next number. That's another integer, number 2, and we're going to input the next integer. There's no prompting in this simple program to advise the user that they should be typing numbers between 1 and 30. The range suggested. You could add that to your prompt line. We're going to assign an integer variable number 2, the input from the keyboard. System.out.print a user prompt, enter a number between 1 and 30. That's an integer. Number 3 is assigned. That integer value typed at the keyboard. Integer number 4 is assigned. Integer input from the keyboard, and integer 5 is assigned integer input from the keyboard. Now we've captured these separate integer variable names. 5 different integer variable names have been assigned their values, and now we're going to assign an integer variable value equal to 0, number of stars to print. Now we're going to print our histogram, which is the number of stars per line of output according to the integer number input by the user. So we're using our for statement, for, and our counter control int, integer, counter is equal to 1, so counter is assigned 1. We're going to continue the for while counter remains less than or equal to 5. And at the end of each for body, we're going to increment counter by 1. So the body of the for begins with that brace and ends with its matching end brace. You could document also that that's the end of the for counter loop. Okay, so moving into this body of the for counter loop, counter is equal to 1. We're going to use our switch. Remember, switch allows us to choose a matched case on a variable. Switch, counter is equal to 1, so case 1 matches. Value is now assigned the number that the user typed in for number 1. So the first row of our histogram will print a number of asterisks the same as number 1. So the value of the number of asterisks will be equal to the number 1 that the user typed in at the keyboard. So that's the first value the user typed in. There's a break. So since we matched on 1, we don't need to test any of the other cases. We're going to go to the end of the switch. And now we go to for int j equals 1. So our counter variable in this for body is j, and j is equal to 1. We're going to continue while j is less than or equal to value. We're going to increment j at the end of this loop. So system.out.print, and we're going to print a string, and it happens to be the single symbol, the asterisk. And we're going to return to the for, j increments to 2, while it's less than or equal to value. So if the user assigned number 1, the first number typed by the user is 2, j is now 2, which is less than or equal to value. We're going to print out another quoted symbol asterisk on the same line. We return to the for, j increments by 1, so j is now equal to 3, and j is not less than or equal to value, so we exit this for statement, print a new line, and we have actually printed 2 asterisks on one line with a new line, assuming that the user typed 2 to assign to number 1. So let's see what happens when I run the program and do assign some values. Okay, I'm entering a number, and this will assign to number 1, and I'm going to enter 3. Enter my next number, which will be assigning number 2. Enter the next number, which assigns number 3. Enter the next number, which assigns number 4, and enter the next number, which assigns number 5. So I've entered 5 different integers from the keyboard, understanding that they should be between 1 and 30. And when I hit the enter key, my 5 integer variables are now assigned. And for counter is equal to 1, counter is less than or equal to 5, counter is going to increment at the next iteration. So switch on counter. Counter is equal to 1 when we go in the first time. Case matches 1. Value is assigned to number 1, and the first number that I typed in was 3. So value is now equal to 3. Case 1 was matched, so we're going to break out of the switch, which takes us to the end of the switch. We break out. The next statement is for int j equals 1. We're going to iterate while j is less than or equal to value, and j increments by 1 on the next iteration. So j is equal to 1, and 1 is less than or equal to value, which is now 3. That's what I typed in as my first number. So I'm going to system print a quoted asterisk. J is now equal to 2. 2 is less than or equal to 3. So I'm going to print another asterisk. J increments. J is now 3. It's less than or equal to 3. So I'm going to print another asterisk. J increments to 4. 4 is not less than or equal to 3. So I exit this for iteration. System.out.print line. I'm going to print a line. And I'll have 3 asterisks printed for my first variable. Three was my first variable. Sure enough, 1, 2, 3 stars on this line, and then we printed a new line. I'm going to the next line. Number 2, the second integer that I input was 5. Value is equal to 0. That's not right. Value is assigned 3 because that's my last value. Okay, 4. Int counter equals 1. Counter is less than or equal to 5. Well, that's equal to 1 right now, and it increments on the next iteration of the 4. Switch on counter. Counter is 1. Counter incremented to 2. So the counter is now equal to 2. Counter is less than or equal to 5. This is my second time through the 4 iteration. Here's your for loop. Second time through the 4 iteration. Counter is now 2. That's less than or equal to 5. We're going to switch on counter. This is case 2 matches. Number 2, the value I typed in at the keyboard was 5. 5 will be assigned to value, and we break out of this switch. Body. Value is now equal to 5, the second number that I input at the keyboard. For j equals 1, j is less than or equal to value, and j is going to increment on the next iteration. J is equal to 1. 1 is less than or equal to 5. So I'm going to print a quoted star. Increment j by 1. J is now 2. 2 is less than or equal to 5. Print another star. 2 increments to 3. 3 is less than or equal to 5. I print another star. J increments to 4. 4 is less than or equal to 5. I print another star. Increment j to 5. 5 is less than or equal to 5. So I print another star. J increments to 6. 6 is not less than or equal to 5. So I exit this loop, the 4 iteration. The next statement is system.out print a new line. So I'm going to start on a new line, and I go back to the for loop, and counter is now equal to 3. 3 is less than or equal to 5. Switch on counter. I'm going to match on case 3, and number 3's value, I input at the keyboard, was 7, so value is now equal to 7. I break and print with the 4J iteration, 7 stars on the same line, print a new line, and return to the 4 and counter increments to the 4th iteration, to the 5th iteration, and then the 4 exits, and we're done. So let's see if I can resurrect my output again. First number I input, number 1, was 3. There's 3 asterisks. Second number, number 2, is assigned 5. There's 5 asterisks. Number 3 is assigned 7. 7 asterisks. Number 4 is assigned 9. 9 asterisks are printed. And number 5 was assigned 11 at the keyboard. Number 5 matches on case 5, which assigns value 11, and with the 4 iteration, 11 stars are output on the next line of text. So we're trying to introduce the 4 iteration, and while we're on one line of output, we iterate 3 times. While we're on a line of output, we're iterating 5 times, print 5 asterisks. On this line of output, we iterate 7 asterisks being printed. So we're noticing that within the 4 counter, the first time through the counter loop, we're matching case 1, and we also have a nested 4J iteration. So for our first number, we're going to iterate and print that number of stars. For the next variable assigned at the keyboard, we'll be matching case 2, and we will iterate to print that number of stars on this line. There's a new line. We go back, and we're going to, within this case 3, print using the 4J loop nested within the 4 counter loop. Again, let's run this. Enter number 1. Let's go 10. Number 2, 5. I'm assigning number 3. Let's assign it 3. Number 4, let's assign 17. And number 5, let's assign 7. So my first output line should have 10 asterisks. Next, 5 asterisks. Case 3, we have 3 iterations to print 3 stars. Case 4, I have 17 iterations to print 17 stars on this line. Force a new line, and on case 5, the 5th row, I'm going to iterate to display and print and display 7 asterisks on this line of text. Now again, this is your shared Chapter 5 code, so you can copy that and input it into a project name, add the new file, declare it as a main file, main class file, and then execute, and just double check what's happening with the 4 counter loop, the switch control, and the nested 4J loop. Nice logic going on within this sample program. Now, this is the shared solution, so it's a complete solution to exercise 5.16. I would suggest that you have read the chapter and watched all the video companion clips before you work on this program, and certainly run and execute this program before you move on to the Prog 5 assignment for this chapter. And I'll have another recording that will discuss the logic and the syntax for your Prog 5. So be watching for your next recorded lecture. So thank you.